All right, you fabulously beautiful, fab-curious son of a bitch. This one's for you. Or maybe it's not. How would I know? Together, you and I are about to take a huge, reckless swing into 10 reasons why you should absolutely not play Flesh and Blood. That's right. Stay away from it. Save yourself now and smash that dislike button and just go play a much more sophisticated game like Magic the Gathering. All right, whether you're a casual player looking for a fun time or a competitive grinder trying to break into a new scene, these are the 10 things that I think you need to know before diving into the world of Wraith. The barrier to entry is pretty steep. Flesh and Blood is easily one of the best designed trading card games that I've ever played, and you gotta trust me here, I have ADHD and a complex case of FOMO.
I need it!
The mechanics in this game are tight.
Tight!
The gameplay is deep and every decision matters, and that's a huge problem. I'd like you to think of Flesh and Blood as filing your taxes and other games that you may have tried as defrauding the government.
The government is a greedy piglet.
If Flesh and Blood is the SATs, games like Magic, Lorcana, even One Piece are like your high school equivalency test to get you out of a juvenile detention center. You naughty miscreant. The mechanics in this game are so deep. So if you're used to similar card games like Pokemon or One Piece,
No! God!
it can be pretty overwhelming.
No!
Every decision that you make matters. From pitch stacking.
Yeah, I did, I think. Let me think. Yeah. Yeah.
To resource management, and the game punishes mistakes that you make pretty hard. New players often get steamrolled by veterans. I often make a pretty presumptuous claim that if I had a starter deck and you had like the world champion meta deck, I still stand a fair chance if you've never played the game.
Say my name.
But once you start playing, suddenly you're spending hours of time thinking about lines of play, and you'll come to find that other games feel sluggish and unbalanced in comparison.
You're goddamn right.
If you're not into games that demand heavy strategy and planning, this might not be for you. But if you are, you'll end up craving the complex and deep gameplay every single time that you try to play something else. Then before you know it, you're addicted. And your friends and loved ones won't understand and try to force you into a luxury cardboard rehab, but you'll reject this idea and then go on to win worlds and be king of all the land.
I am the king!
Deck building is extremely rigid. Unlike other trading card games where you can throw together a deck and still have a pretty good time,
This card is useless.
Flesh and Blood requires just a little more precision. In Classic Constructed, the main format of the game, your deck needs to be exactly 60 cards, and you have to get your balance right. Sideboarding is completely crucial, meaning that you need deep format knowledge, and there's really only one format, which is Classic Constructed. You'll hear about Blitz and even Ultimate Pit Fight, but the format that's played the most is CC. And that's what you'll want to get into if you want to play the game. Also, having one deck is often better than having multiple decks.
What?
If you get your reps in with your deck and then learn it inside and out, you'll know your lines of play, you'll know your matchups, and everything else.
Just do it!
Focus on the one deck that you have to be better at that deck instead of having a bunch that you're okay at, and you'll be a lot happier for it. So if you like free form building whatever you want deck building, this game could feel a little bit restrictive on that creativity. The meta can be pretty brutal. The Flesh and Blood meta is tight. You know, like
Tight!
at high levels, certain decks just dominate and tier lists actually matter. Some heroes get pushed out of viability entirely. Rest in peace. So if you don't stay up to date, you can and more likely will get left behind. Like I said earlier, casual formats exist, but competitive play is like a Shark Tank in a butcher shop. You know what I mean. Competitive play usually requires travel. If you're looking to go pro, get ready to book flights and hotel rooms or Airbnbs, whatever.
I have escaped from the police. This is my new home. with that pigeon.
So if you've just made bail and can't leave the state, let alone the country, well, you're kind of fucked.
Hello, pigeon.
The pro play scene is structured around big centralized events. Think of the heyday of the Magic the Gathering Pro Tour, because Flesh and Blood pretty much stole it. And if there's no local scene near you, you might struggle to get those meaningful repetitions in.
I just use straight pain and anger to get me through my reps.
The game is meant to be played in person, in the flesh and blood. Unlike games with digital counterparts like Magic the Gathering Arena, Master Duel, or even the One Piece Simulator. So if you can't travel, or if you don't have a strong local scene, your competitive options are pretty limited. The secondary market is getting more expensive by the day. Fab isn't as bad as something like the Magic the Gathering reserved list prices. You won't have to sell your annoying sister that just ate your last Pop-Tart, but it's still pricey. Staple cards can be expensive, especially equipment. However, when it comes to things like equipment, you only need to buy one of that card and can usually use it across the multiple decks that you don't have. Having one deck is often better than having multiple decks. But when your hero inevitably rotates out of format, you'll still have the equipment that you can use with another hero, and it's good. Some competitive decks can cost hundreds if you want optimal builds, but that being said, budget decks can compete. They aren't always viable at the highest level, but I'd say on a budget, you could still stick to your locals and do okay, and we'll get more into that later. It's not a pay-to-win game. You can't just buy your way in. You can't drop your wallet, buy the best deck in the game, and then just
Shut up and take my money.
Flesh and Blood rewards skill more than wealth. Expensive cards can help, but they won't save a bad player. Although players tend to also favor the latest heroes, new sets don't automatically make older ones obsolete, so you don't need to run out and just buy boxes. If you're used to a game with reprints or budget-friendly decks, Fab might hurt you and let you down, and break your heart, and leave you alone, lost and confused, making you feel like you did something wrong, until you realize that it was gaslighting you the whole time. It's not your fault. It's not nearly as costly as Legacy or even Modern in Magic the Gathering, but you know what I mean. So leave me alone and don't attack me in the comments because I'm really sensitive. You'll actually have to go to locals. If you are a Flesh and Blood player, you will end up at a local event, and there's really no avoiding it. The game is literally designed for in-person play, like I said, and you need reps against real people in order to improve.
She made me break my equipment, and then the floodgates just opened. But she gave me a lot of really good tips for my next match.
The competitive scene is insanely, well, competitive. Duh. Prizing can be pretty sick, though, and you can always sell cards to take the edge off your deck building budget.
Show me the money.
But if your idea of playing is sitting at home hoarding sealed product like some kind of waiting for prices to peak so you can bank off actual players, you might want to reconsider and go f yourself. Distribution sucks. If your friendly local game store doesn't carry this game, they likely won't unless there's an absurdly high and profitable demand.
We demand change.
Just kind of is what it is. For example, a lot of the stores in my area use Alliance, Asmodee, GTS, and ACDD for their distribution. In North America, Flesh and Blood uses PhD and Southern Hobby Supply, and the latter is not nearly as prevalent or common as the prior for game stores in my experience. All in all, I'm just saying that stores have a certain number of accounts and preferred accounts that they already use, and they're not too keen on getting new ones.
Real change, not tinkering around the edges change.
But that's not to say that you can't find cards. TCG Player is riddled with them, and they're pretty cheap until you get into the more expensive stuff, especially equipment. But it's harder to get your LGS on board if they don't already carry Flesh and Blood. Rude. The community is growing and extremely passionate. You ever try to have a casual conversation about Flesh and Blood with a player?
I can't wait to battle Nemi. Go again, go again, go again. Get nerd.
Good luck.
Somebody just learned to play Flesh and Blood.
Like I said, it's not a casual game, and there are not many casual players.
Get nerd.
These people know their stuff. They'll pull out their tournament deck list and start going over their lines of play in the middle of the grocery store as you try to resupply your stolen Pop-Tarts. Call back. They'll even try to convert you like it's some cardboard-based religion, and they really only need a moment of your time. But you don't just dabble in Flesh and Blood. You either play it or you become one of them.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Which isn't bad, because unlike certain other games, I've never met a Fab player that I couldn't connect with and have a fun time. The art style and theme aren't for everyone. Flesh and Blood has an aesthetic that's somewhere between high fantasy and classic trading card game artwork. You see this shit? When I first saw this card, I knew I had to play. I didn't research or anything, which is insane because I'm a giant nerd. I just bought into the game and started playing immediately. The art in Flesh and Blood helps curb my Jeffrey Dahmerish obsession with Mortal Kombat-esque brutality. If you love like anime style art, One Piece, Pokemon, Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, this probably isn't your vibe. Some people love the Western fantasy feel, while others find it a little generic. So if you're big on aesthetics and immersion, check out the art first before diving in. I'm looking at you, mechanologist. It's not a casual game. Flesh and Blood is a hardcore competitive trading card game at its core. Every deck is absolutely built to win. Casual formats exist, but the game was designed for tight and predictable skill-based play. Think like competitive EDH, CEDH, if you will, where the golden rule is everyone brings their deck and the goal is to win regardless of whether or not people are having fun.
Don't call me. Don't come by my house.
In other games, you can always blame a bad hand, but not here.
We're done.
There are no mulligans. What? But there's also no mana screw.
Good housekeeping.
So there's no bad luck excuses. You misplayed, you lost. You didn't sideboard properly, you lost. You blinked at the wrong moment, probably lost. I just lost now.
Did we just become best friends?
And losing feels bad because games are often really, really close, down to, single digit life. And small mistakes matter. So if you just want to have fun with friends and drink beer and eat pretzels.
Drank a beer. I drank another beer. 3 beers. 4 beers.
Oh no. Flesh and Blood is for players who love deep, strategic gameplay. If you just want to chill, game's probably too intense. All right, so there you have it. 10 reasons to not play Flesh and Blood. Does this mean you shouldn't give it a shot? Not necessarily. But if any of these points make you second guess it, you might want to try before you buy. You can start somewhere like Blitz decks or Armory decks or even Talishar, which I've linked down below in the description. But if you're into deep strategy, competitive play, skill expression, Flesh and Blood is amazing in the next tier. I often say that a Flesh and Blood player will be better at any card game that they play because the skills you learn while playing the game transition to other games. But if you prefer casual play, digital gaming, or super flexible deck building, it's probably not your thing. The expression comes from the heroes that you choose and the way you choose to play those heroes. But what do you think? Do these reasons hold up, or am I a lonely, sad moron sitting in his living room talking to a camera? Is Fab still worth playing despite these 10 reasons to not? Drop a comment, like the video, or mutilate that dislike button. It's cool, because I'm done.